Guess what, guys? I know it's been a while. I even said I wasn't going to tell you guys that it has been a while, but it has been a while. It's been a very long time. Guys, I come back, all of a sudden it's 2013 or something. Carmelo Anthony's back in the league and he's being productive. We're going to talk about that. It's also NFL Fantasy League playoffs. We're going to talk about that. I have a couple people that I want to shout out. We're going to do some, actually very little anything else. We're going to talk mostly NBA and NFL. But before we do that, we are going to go to the intro. Welcome to the show, guys. It's Coach Wondergeddon. I am your Coach Wondergeddon. Thank you for watching the show. I know it's been a while. I've been a little bit inconsistent. I promise it's going to catch back up. But I had to go secure the bag. So I had to leave for a couple weeks and secure that. Now I'm back. Hello, everybody who have told me over and over that they missed my podcast and that they wanted it to come back. I am back. And I am better than ever. I just had a pizza. Pizza was hot. And here I am to spit them hot flames at you guys. We're going to start with some NBA. We're going to do some NFL. First, I'm going to start with the NBA. Guys, I leave for a week or two, and all of a sudden, Carmelo Anthony is with the Portland Trailblazers. What is this? LL Cool J? Huh? Don't call it a comeback? Is that what's going on? Melo is back, shooting at 40+%, which is about average, about 17 points a game. That's pretty good for someone who was barely here last year. He's even rebounding. Portland Trailblazers got the sleeper pick of the year, 2019. This guy got wasted in Houston by the Rockets, and I didn't know if I should blame Carmelo getting old. Father Time was doing a number on yet another one of our NBA players, or if it was just something that happened with the Houston Rockets. Well, guess what? The Houston Rockets are still winning. Carmelo's back in the league now. He's with the Portland Trailblazers. They're sub 500. What can you do? But you got Carmelo scoring about 15 points a game. In fantasy world, that is a good pickup because I know none of you guys drafted him, which means you guys must have picked him up on waivers. I know he's still out there because I think 70% of fantasy leagues have already picked him up. So I know a lot of you guys picked him up on waivers. And you know and I know, if you're getting 15 points a game and 5 rebounds off your waiver wire, that you made a good pickup. You got a steal, and that's exactly what you did. Okay? Lala got killed off of the 50 Cent show. What's it called again? Can't remember. And Carmelo's back. Go Blazers, go. Power, that's the name. Lala's out there looking good and said, hey, but my husband, he should still be in the league. And they did it. If you are in one of those leagues, the small 40% of the leagues who have Carmelo Anthony still out there, you better hurry up and pick him up. Trust me, you have a bum on your team that you can drop to pick up Carmelo Anthony. I suggest you do that now. Thank me now. You're welcome in advance. All right, guys, we are in the second part of my NBA. Of course, it would not be a conversation if I, a Toronto mandem, if you will, doesn't talk about the Toronto Raptors. My team, my favorite team, my home team. I am a homer for these guys. They are your defending NBA champions. Okay, they are on the top half of the conference, and I expect them to be that way for at least the rest of this season and going forward for the next few years. I still see them perhaps taking the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I'm talking about America's least favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. They hate on us all day. They don't respect us. We still keep winning. Okay, we went from our nucleus of Kyle Lowry and DeRozan to Kyle Lowry to Kawhi, won a championship, and now we seem to be going into the Siakam and Fred VanVleet era with a strong defense and a bunch of vets and Raptor 905 players, which means that we're pretty good at the developing players in Mississauga, the Raptor 905 home court. Okay, we got a few guys who probably weren't doing too well in their other teams. A couple guys we picked up and gave them a second life. Not going to mention too many names and try to disrespect these guys, but you know who they are. We got a couple good vets who came in 4 or 5 years deep in the league, have something to prove, played really strong defense. We picked up one of those. Ronde, we got a couple of those. And then we got some nice rookies, a couple nice young guys. Chris Boucher, Lucian guy, shout out Chris Boucher from the West Indies. We got one of those on our team via Montreal. He's on our team now, and he's a defensive stopper. With Serge Ibaka and Gasol, you might not hear about him too much this year, but once those contracts start to disappear and some of our young guys who are still developing are going to come up, we're going to be a pretty good team for the next few years. It's very hard to play the Raptors, man. They play some really strong defense. They've been strapping up some of our good players. Strapping up some really good players in the league. Could they make the finals again? Maybe. Are they going to face the Lakers or the Clippers in the playoffs, in the finals? Quite possibly. Or will they get rubbed out early by the Celtics, the Bucks, Miami Heat, maybe Philadelphia 76ers? We're now in the era where the East is not that shallow anymore. We got some good teams in the East. The West is starting to deteriorate a little bit. Golden State, all injured. We're probably not going to see them for the next couple of years unless they draft a nice number 1 pick. They are just about as bad enough that they might even sneak out with a number 1 pick next year. Klay Thompson's going to come back next year. They'll be okay. But I wanted to talk about the Raptors right now. As I said, I think they're going to be number 1. Trade deadline still coming. I think they're going to pick up somebody to make their team even better. Defense wins in the playoffs. We know that. They have a lot of defensive players. A lot of guys in our league that are really good defensively on our team, and a lot of guys that score. We score about a lot of points as well. We don't rebound as well. We might pick something up like that on the trade deadline. I wouldn't mind picking up even a shooter, maybe a JJ Redick from the oh my gosh, New Orleans Pelicans. Somebody like that. Pelicans aren't going to make the playoffs. JJ Redick makes the playoffs every year since he's been in the league. Might as well pick up a JJ Redick and see if we can keep that playoff magic going and see if we can go on a deep run. But as I said, Raptors fan, hardcore. Raptors. Soon I'm going to start wearing some Raptors apparel just to swag on all of y'all. But as I said, Toronto Raptors, to me, best team in the league, going back to the finals. Quite possibly, I have no reason to say that they're not going to do it. That being said, let's talk about some other NBA stuff, some other Raptor stuff. And this is going to be about my boy, personal boy, homie friend of mine. Never met him in my life. Pascal Siakam. Now, interesting situation in Toronto with a guy like Pascal Siakam, because there's an opportunity here that I don't think has ever been done in the NBA before. Definitely not what I've seen. And it comes to me in a form of a question. And the question is this: is Pascal Siakam about to be a 2-time most improved player in the NBA, or he could be, by the end of the season, a league MVP? Is that possible? How about it is possible? 25-year-old Cameroonian, African Cameroonian, is averaging 25 points, about 8.5 rebounds and 4 assists. His career averages were 11.4 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. that 11.4 actually would have been a lot lower if he wasn't most improved last year, where he scored about 17 points and had about 6 or 7 rebounds. Now he's jumped up again, another 8 points per game, another couple rebounds per game, and a few more assists per game. This guy is playing like a league MVP. He's also playing like a 2-time most improved player in the NBA. Okay? What's your opinion, guys? I'm going to ask you guys to respond to me about how you feel about this. Is it possible, in your opinion, that Pascal Siakam can be, again, most improved player in the league? Can he be a league MVP? Can he do both? Can he do one of the two? Is that even possible? Or is he just like a regular guy who's going to be scoring 20, 22 points a game, perhaps for the rest of his career? Who knows? It's a pretty good output of numbers there when you have an average in the 20s in the NBA, in both real life and in fantasy. But the question is this guy going to be able to put more hardware on the trophy case as far as most improved player, league MVP? Playoff league MVP is possible too. This guy has a lot of hardware. He could put a lot of space on his shelf. You guys let me know. Do you think he could pull this off? I ask one more time. Most improved player, again, league MVP, playoff league MVP. Are any of these things possible? What do you guys think of Pascal Siakam? Let me know. This is about all I gotta say about NBA basketball for now. You guys go on Coach Wondergeddon Instagram. If you guys have any questions or any comments like that, let me know and answer my question, guys. Is this guy the truth? Is this guy the most improved playing MVP of the league and playoffs? You guys let me know. As I said, respond back to me. Let me know what's going on and how everyone else thinks. Let me know. That's basketball. I'm going to talk about some football after these messages. Alright guys, so it seems like I've talked about all the NBA that I feel like talking about today. So we're going to talk about the NFL. As you probably know, we're probably in about week 14 in the NFL right now, which means that you are either A, in the playoffs, or B, about to go into the playoffs. Week 14 usually means that if you're in a deep league, a 12-team league, you're probably starting your first and second place teams are probably on a bye week, and you're probably in the fight for your first week to get in against the bye guys. I seem to be in that situation as well. I came in third place in my team, which means I got to get that extra week of work, but I don't mind doing. You know why I don't mind doing it, guys? Because my team just happens to be absolutely awesome. This is the part of the show that I am going to call, if your team is as good as my team, you would be in the playoffs too. All right, guys, this is what your lineup would look like if you had a chance of tying me in the playoffs or even beating me to win your league. Now, let me put my disclaimer. My personal league that we had this season, the WFFL, didn't go so well. I'm trying to sneak into the playoffs in the last minute. So this team that I'm talking about is going to be the GTA Fantasy Football League. Shout out to Cool Runnings. He is the GM of this particular league. I have a team in his league. He has a team in my league. He's beating me in his league. And I'm about to beat him in his league. Ironic, a little bit. We pay for these leagues every year. And every year we give each other back our money. In almost every league that we've been in, this is what we've done. So let me tell you guys why I'm going to beat him in his league this year by explaining my players. Okay? Now, The reason why I'm going to win, guys, is because my quarterback situation was the cream of the crop this year. Some people had guys out there that I didn't have. I didn't have a Mahomes from Kansas City. I didn't have Deshaun Watson from Houston Texans. And I didn't have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is in Green Bay putting up numbers every year. So what two quarterbacks did Wondergeddon get, you ask? 2-quarterback league. I have 3 quarterbacks. My 3 quarterbacks was like this. 5th round, I picked up Jameis Winston from the Tampa Bay Bucks. Let me explain something first. This is a 12-team league, and it was a snake format, which means I wasn't able to pick up players sometimes for 20 picks. I had the number 1 pick in the league, and I didn't have the second pick till about the 21st pick. And I picked 2 running backs, which I'm going to get to in a second. In the 5th round, I picked up Jameis Winston from the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then I went around for a long period of time. And then in the 6th round, I picked up the guy, Lamar Jackson. Let me tell you guys something first. Jameis Winston, despite being a borderline terrible NFL quarterback, for some reason, despite all the turnovers, all the weird interceptions that he happens to throw, and the sacks, and his terrible offensive line, his borderline terrible running game, for some reason, Jameis Winston still ends up being an above average quarterback in fantasy football. I've had him for a couple years, even though he's done some really dumb things and not able to really pull off too many victories in the real world. In fantasy league, this guy's putting up 400 yards a game. This guy's throwing so many touchdowns, so many deep passes. He loves to throw deep. And I tried to take advantage of that with the 5th pick, and it worked because I'm going into the playoffs with a pretty good record. My 6th round pick, I picked up Lamar Jackson. If you do not know that this guy is most likely, or at least top 3 MVP candidates, especially in the quarterback position, then I'm afraid that your team probably didn't make the playoffs if you didn't know that. My 3rd quarterback is Drew Brees. I picked him up when he got injured. He was gone for a long time. Luckily, I had Lamar Jackson, I had Jameis Winston. I was able to put a spot for an extra quarterback. Drew Brees dropped out there when Teddy Bridgewater looked like he was about to take over all the reins. Drew Brees came back, and I had him already in my bench. So I am sitting with a 3-quarterback tandem of Lamar Jackson, Jameis Winston, and Drew Brees, and they have probably been the reason why I am winning the league. Or why I think I'm going to win the league, I should say. All right. My running back situation was a little bit different. As I said, I had the number 1 pick, and with my number 1 pick, in the beginning of the season, I picked up Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers. He is that guy. That guy puts up points when you put up as many points as he did as a non-running back. You have to remember that this guy is a running back, which means he's not a quarterback who gets numbers regardless. One other thing, let me go back for 1 second to my quarterback. One of the things that made Lamar Jackson special is this is a guy who will throw for a couple touchdowns, throw for a lot of yards. He was also, he threw 25, so far he's at 25 touchdowns. He's only thrown like 1 interception. Or no, he's only lost 1 fumble, and I think he's only thrown 2 interceptions, which is crazy to me, especially when you put him beside people like Drew Brees, who also doesn't throw any interceptions. We have 2 really accurate quarterbacks. The difference is that Lamar Jackson also runs for 100 yards a game, and he does it, and he makes it look very, very easy, which is where a lot of his points came from for me. Let's get back to running back. As I said, my running back situation was a little bit different. I had Christian McCaffrey, who is hands down the RB1 overall best running back in the league, especially for my team. And then the rest of my running backs, I was kind of battling injuries with them, or they were just having subpar seasons. Joe Mixon, Cincinnati Bengals, and Devin Singletary from the Bills both fought injuries, bad offensive lines, everything like that. But lucky for me, I stole Kareem Hunt in the 14th round. Kareem Hunt was suspended, and he came off suspension in week 10, and I've been riding with him and McCaffrey ever since. And as I said, now I'm in the playoffs. My defense, I started with Houston. I upgraded the Houston Texans defense with the San Francisco defense. I started winning a little bit more with them. They were putting up a lot more points. They got a lot of sacks, and they just always held tight. Zach Ertz was my tight end. Zach Ertz of the Eagles, target monster. This guy's always catching passes. He's always in the eye of Carson Wentz, which is why I picked him up, because he's always on the radar, always quick to get a pass, a big 15 yards here, 20 yards here, not to mention all the touchdowns. Matt Prater from the Detroit Lions was my kicker, and he's done an awesome job for me despite what the Lions were doing as far as their good and bad. I had TJ Hawkinson as well from the Detroit Lions. He got injured, so I had to take him away. He was my backup tight end in case Zach Ertz didn't perform. Luckily, Zach Ertz did perform, and I never had to test out if TJ Hawkinson was the truth or not. That being said, we're going to talk about my wide receivers, and that situation was a mess, guys. I got through it because the rest of my team was pretty strong. I was able to take some risks and get myself back into my wide receiver setup in time for the playoffs, and I think I did a pretty good job. Yes, Brandon Cooks flopped for me this season. Brandon Cook from the Rams had a couple concussions, missed a few weeks, hasn't really got it back. Jared Goff probably wasn't one of my better picks in another league, but his skill diminished a lot as well. That being said, I kind of cleaned up my wide receiver situation, along with Brandon Cooks, who isn't even starting on my team right now. I picked up the following wide receivers during the season. I had Christian Kirk that I drafted from the Arizona Cardinals. He did it. He had his weeks. He had a couple weeks at most. I expect him to only get better going forward. Cortland Sutton from the Broncos. I don't know how I got him. I didn't draft him, but whoever dropped him and got me to pick him up. Thank you. He's a monster. He's unguardable right now, guys. He's one of those guys who will, if you throw the ball anywhere near him, he's going to catch the ball and he's going to humiliate a corner. Devontae Parker from the Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are a terrible team, and that benefited Devontae Parker because he's the best wide receiver on the team, which means he got all the passes. He got all the smoke. Kenyon Drake was with the Dolphins. He left, which opened up for more passing yards for Fitzpatrick, and he's been throwing to Devontae Parker all season, and I benefited from that. James Washington from the Steelers. If you don't know, Pittsburgh Steelers are my favorite team. I had to pick up somebody from the Pittsburgh Steelers going into my playoffs. James Washington seemed to have had the eye of both of Big Ben's backup quarterbacks, which meant it was a good situation for him. He's been catching over 80 yards a game and has multiple targets a game, which I picked him up because, quite honestly, D.D. Westbrook let me down this season, so I had to drop him, and I picked up James Washington, and hopefully I'm hoping that he pans out going forward. Yeah, so I'm going into the playoffs, guys. I don't even know if I'm going to win, but I'm pretty sure I am. That being said, guys, we're going to end this one off pretty quick. We're going to start with a poll question, guys. I'm going to take a drink for this one. The poll question that I'm asking everybody who's listening now is, who is the NFL fantasy football MVP? I personally have narrowed it down to 3 players, kinda. If you don't have one of these 3 players on your team, I don't believe you're going to win your playoffs. Unless you're facing somebody who just shouldn't even have been there. 3 fantasy football MVPs. As I said, I narrowed it down to 3 people, kinda. And you're going to hear why I said kinda when I tell you who they are. Number 1, running for the MVP, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. I am not a Ravens fan by any stretch of the imagination. I have a lot of good friends who are Raven fans who don't talk to me too much anymore because I keep telling them that their team sucks. Yes, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Yes, my team is not having one of their better years this year, but I still ride hard for these guys. These are still my boys, Pittsburgh Steelers, and as my boys, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I am not allowed to be a Ravens fan as well. But I will tell you this though, I like Lamar Jackson. I like him a lot. Wasn't sure what the Ravens were doing when they got rid of Joe Flacco to pick up Lamar Jackson. I had no idea. I'm lying. I had a little bit of an idea that he was going to be as good as he is. But guess what? He is better than I thought he was going to be. 25 touchdowns thus far. And as I said, we're in week 14. This guy has 25 touchdowns. And he only has 2 interceptions all season. That's outrageous. Those are video game numbers. One fumble lost all season. As I said, we're in week 14. This guy's rushed for over 1,000 yards already. And he's also thrown for 25 touchdowns. I didn't even calculate. I don't even know how many rushing touchdowns he has. I'm assuming by the end of the season he's going to have about 10 of them. So 25 touchdowns throwing, which I think is going to go up by the end of the season to maybe about 30, maybe 35, because he's had 3 5-touchdown games this season already. I don't know if he's going to have one more, but even if he does have one more, he's going to have 30 touchdowns in one season. That's outrageous. Number 2 for potential fantasy football MVP has to be Christian McCaffrey, running back, Carolina Panthers. 1,200 yards already, 800 receiving yards. He's a bulldozer. He gets involved in every single play. He gets points on every play that the Carolina Panthers come up with. Regardless who his quarterback is, he's still effective. He's always running the ball. He's always breaking tackles, and he's always getting to the end zone. This guy averages, or not even averages, this guy is low game. He had a bad game a couple weeks ago, and I think he still gave me 13 points. A 40-point game. I'm assuming he's going to give me 1 or 2 more of those in the playoffs. I have Christian McCaffrey. I have Lamar Jackson too. This person that I don't have is the number 3 for fantasy football MVP, and the reason why I've been saying kinda this whole time is for this reason, because the number 3 who I think could be who I think is the potential MVP of fantasy football is the New England defense. The New England defense was so good this year fantasy-wise that I had to include him as potentially the top 3 players. As I said, I know it's a whole team, obviously the defensive squad, but these guys were outrageous. 6 weeks with 5 sacks or more. 6 weeks. An interception. They've also had an interception in all but 2 games. High double-digit points in every week for scoring. Every scoring format in fantasy, they prevailed in all of them. New England defense was scoring more than half the offensive players that are out there. Probably more than half. These guys put up so many points. It was unbelievable watching the New England defense put up points and carry teams to the playoffs. Fantasy league teams to the playoffs, guys. It was phenomenal. Who do you choose? I want you guys to really think about this. I want you to think about your answers and get me back. Let me know what you guys think. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers, or the New England defense? Who was your fantasy football MVP? Let me know. All right? Let me know. That being said, guys, at long last, I know, as I said, I haven't been here for a while. Glad to be back in front of the camera, trying to be a lot more consistent with this, but I had to get the bag. I had to get the bag, guys, and now I'm back. Thanks for watching the show. If you guys want to continue watching the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. This is the Higher Movement Showcase. This is Coach Wondergeddon. This show is Coach Wondergeddon. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you soon.